Hi, this is New Time on Silkway TV channel. We introduce you with the most visible news and important events that happened throughout this week in Kazakhstan in Central Asia. More details on politics, economy, social and cultural life with opinions from the most recognizable experts of Kazakhstan and the world. I'm Ainur Mengali and this is what you'll see today. New Prime Minister was appointed in Kazakhstan. President Tokayev held extended meeting with an updated cabinet of ministers. What will be priority for the government this year? Ilham Aliyev won snap presidential elections in Azerbaijan. New Time spoke to prominent political experts to know what to expect next. Is there a space for politics in stand-up? Kazakhstan-born multilingual stand-up comic Yevgeny Chabatkov shared his opinion. Let us start from the main political news topic. Kazakh President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev signed a decree appointing Olzhas Bektenov as the new Prime Minister of Kazakhstan, previously approving resignation of his predecessor, Alihan Ismailov. The Majlis, lower house of the Kazakh parliament, supported the candidacy of Bektenov, with a majority of MPs voted in favor. During his address in parliament, the head of state underscored that the new prime minister is tasked with eliminating barriers in tariff policy, modernizing the agricultural sector, and developing new approaches to managing the financial and social spheres of economy. The President of Kazakhstan has demanded to ensure annual GDP growth at a minimum of 6%. This task was set during the extended government session held this week under the President's chairmanship. Kassym-Jomart Tokayev has obligated the new Prime Minister's team to give a new impetus to the economy. The head of state emphasized that the pace of reforms is slowing down, which is unacceptable. What is the task that previous government failed to address? And what is the agenda for the new one? Find the answers in the next report.
The budget deficit is growing, forecasting and financial management are failing. A significant portion of Kazakh president's speech at the extended government session was dedicated to analyzing mistakes and shortcomings in the economic sector. That's why the change in leadership at the Ministry of National Economy and the Ministry of Finance is not surprising. Kassym-Jomart Tokayev emphasized that the new government has a clear goal to increase the economy to $450 billion by 2029. To achieve this, the country's GDP must grow annually at a minimum rate of 6%.
At the same time, it is crucial for macroeconomic indicators to ensure leading growth in the real incomes of citizens. However, to make a qualitative leap in development, thoughtful and decisive actions are required.
The head of state is convinced that today the focus should be on a consistent course of economic reforms. President has instructed to prepare a special decree on economic liberalization within a month.
This is an extremely important reform that will gradually reduce extensive government intervention in economic processes. For instance, excessive price regulation in the fuel and energy market has led to an increase in deficit and a decrease in the production of certain petroleum products. The government has learned these lessons and the situation is now getting better.
Kassym-Jomart Tokayev stressed the urgent need for Kazakhstan to change its financial and tax policies. The budget deficit has been a problem for many years. It failed to stimulate financial activity in the country. The new tax code is expected to help finding a balance between investor-friendly environment and revenue generation for the budget. Overall, the president criticized the government for its weak efforts in developing a new tax policy.
The previous government countered such arguments by citing additional revenues to the budget, which would replace transfers from the national fund. It must be acknowledged that now the efforts in shaping the new tax code do not meet my expectations. The current task is not to raise taxes, but to increase their revenue. Raising taxes may escalate shadow inflation. Therefore, it needs not to be raised but reformed.
Reforms are also required in investment policy. The president stated that investors, especially those willing to invest more than $50 million, need to receive the full spectrum of support. He mentioned that those with a willingness to invest in the regions are often neglected by local authorities.
At the end of the first half of the year, we will check the results of the investment board's work and subjectively assess the performance of each minister. The scrutiny will be harsh.
Kazakhstan consistently seeks new investors, but the most challenging thing is to use new incomes properly. According to the head of state, the government has all the tools for this purpose, yet they are not fully used, which is why the pace of reforms is slowing down, as stated by the president. Daurian Sagulov, New Time.
President Tokayev, during an extended meeting with government members, called for serious reforms in the quasi-public sector, stressing the need to clarify the state's role and promote competition. The key goal in this regard is to create economic value through the widespread use of co-investment tools.
I instruct the government, together with the Agency for Strategic Planning and Reforms and the Agency of the Protection and Development of Competition, to prepare a decree on economic liberalization within a month. The document should focus on 3 areas: the development of market competition, effective privatization, and reform of the quasi-public sector.
Additionally, the head of state emphasized the critical need to advance the digitalization of the economy and to promote widespread adoption of AI technologies. Highlighting notable advancements in this sphere so far, President Tokayev announced the commencement of the development of a high-performance supercomputer, which will be accessible not only to scientists, but also to various companies operating in the domestic market.
Today, the government has formed a so-called data lake, which includes 87 state databases. However, to create advanced models of artificial intelligence, this is no longer enough. Therefore, it is necessary to accumulate the personalized data from both the public and commercial sectors, while implementing a unified architecture of data management systems.
Meanwhile, over $987 million in investments will be allocated for repairing engineering networks in Kazakhstan this year, said the government's press office. The substantial amount of money is part of the Kazakhstan's extensive tariff reform to modernize the housing and communal services. The main emphasis is on replacing heating networks. In the past year, over $1 billion was invested in the repair of communal infrastructure, covering not only the replacement of the pipes, but also the renovation of significant heat sources. In total, the ongoing tariff reform aims to attract over $6 billion in investments by 2029. It's worth mentioning that in 2023, the government reported the rate of deterioration in engineering networks amounted to 51%. President Tokayev said that the current state of the communal and energy sector is a result of government miscalculations. The head of state has directed an acceleration of the modernization efforts in this problematic sector.
Ensuring the uninterrupted operation of all life support systems in populated areas is one of the fundamental functions of the government. However, every heating season reveals the same issues. The government must prioritize completing the modernization of 19 heat sources in the high-risk red zone this year. Additionally, it is crucial to introduce over 700 megawatts of additional generation. Postponing deadlines is no longer acceptable.
And also, President, during his meeting with the members of government, proposed another initiative. He instructed the use of digital tenge to fight corruption. He particularly focused on the construction industry, which has long been considered as non-transparent. To monitor financial transactions, the use of digital tenge is necessary, said Kassym-Jomart Tokayev.
Currently, pilot projects for the use of digital currency are being implemented, demonstrating their effectiveness. I instruct the Anti-Corruption Agency, in collaboration with the government and the National Bank, to scale up such projects, including in the construction sector. By tagging budget funds with digital trace, we can immediately analyze how they are used.
Now let us talk a bit more about the figure of the new Prime Minister. It is known that 43-year-old Biktenov previously served as the head of administration of the President of Kazakhstan. A lawyer by profession, he also took charge of anti-corruption service. In October 2022, he was awarded with the rank of Lieutenant General of the Anti-Corruption Service. He worked as a public servant who started his career in Justice Department of Almaty, proceeding with positions in Ministry of Justice and Administration of the President. Generational change in Kazakh government is a promising signal which allows to hope that the reforms necessary for today will be carried out by new Prime Minister Olzhas Biktenov. In an interview to the New Time, political expert Arkady Dubnov shared his opinion on systematic political transformation Kazakhstan has been going through since 2022. According to the experts, that year enabled major social and economic changes after January 2022 unrest. What has been changed since then, and will the new appointments in the government contribute to further political modernization in the country? Please watch the fragment of the interview right now.
Mr. Dubnov, thank you for joining us. Following the January events 2 years ago, President Tokayev set a new direction for Kazakhstan. In your assessment, how effectively did the previous government manage the implementation of new reforms?
Проблемы, которые остались
The lingering challenges from the prior administration were largely rooted in Kazakhstan's clan oligarchic structure. Consequently, the preceding government's efforts in the financial and economic sector might have fallen short, as there was limited activity in freeing organizations from the grip of foreign and domestic investments. Despite President Tokayev's progressive initiative to repatriate unlawfully withdrawn assets from abroad, this action did not emerge as the central focus of previous government's agenda.
How will the new Prime Minister Olzhas Bektenov cope with the task of the government, do you think? What is expected from the new government of Kazakhstan?
Я связываю реформирование.
I associate the change of government in Kazakhstan with President Tokayev's ambition to accelerate the transition towards a new societal structure, not just within Kazakh society or the economy, but a comprehensive reformating of the country, aimed at shedding a deeply entrenched, burdensome legacy. This generational change, which in my opinion is the most expressive characteristic of government reform, is a promising signal for me. The 43-year-old Prime Minister, as well as other ministers, is old enough to be the son of the current president of the country. The average age of the government, as I read, is 48 years at the expense of those who remained from the previous government. In general, there is new, so to speak, deck of the ruling nomenclature, including the new head of the administration, who is also 43 years old. This is a new breath, the assumption that the reforms necessary for today's requirements will be carried out.
How do you assess the impacts of the new reforms on Kazakhstan's foreign and domestic policy?
Мы все пребываем
We're amidst a geopolitical rift, navigating a risk-laden zone when making decisions due to shifting dynamics among major world players. And in this situation, the role of Kazakhstan is not to fall under the ice rink of one or another trend, which is manifested by the main actors of the world process. Kazakhstan has its rightful place in this balance of power. In short, Kazakhstan, like all major economic actors, is in the position of choosing the main direction and should not be determined by external players. Kazakhstan is a huge Eurasian country, and when President Tokayev said that he hoped it would become a hub of the Central Asian region, it was a big dream. For those who do not dream, do not get the results.
Thank you for your analysis, Mr. Dubnov.
And yes, 2 years have passed since the head of state, Kassym-Jomart Tokayev, announced the course of political modernization in Kazakhstan. It was announced during national referendum in 2022, when citizens of the republic voted for amendments to the constitution. Experts note that it was a necessary measure in response to the long-standing demand of the Kazakh people for change, social justice and democratization. Which of the president's directives the government managed to implement in reality? Please watch our next report.
One of the most significant political reforms implemented in Kazakhstan is regarded by experts as the constitutional reform, limiting the presidential mandate. New amendment declared that the country's top position can only be held once for a term of 7 years. Political analyst Alibek Tajbayev said that kind of political system is effective in countries with a strong parliament. In his view, moving away from the super-presidential model of governance is the right step to enhance the efficiency of the state.
Kazakhstan made a lot of steps on the way of deepening in democratization of the Kazakh government, Kazakh society. And very important thing that we finally got all the national referendum with the results, and we finally, after 30 years, we little bit declined. We step aside from the super presidential republic up to presidential activity, and the very important part of this job were done on the cabinet side.
In March 2022, Kassym-Jomart Tokayev proposed amendments to liberalize the party law. The implemented initiative successfully reduced the required number of signatures for party registration by 4 times, down to 5,000. As a result, 2 new parties emerged in the parliament. Experts believe that this move can strengthen political competition in the future.
Very important reform in terms of deepening democratization of Kazakhstani society is the political reform of establishing the political parties. It's more than 2 times we declined the quantity of voices that should be registered in our registration authorities. So it's very important. I mean, the local personal activists, they can also join to the political life all over the representative institutions.
The sphere of socio-economic policy has also undergone changes. Starting from January 1st of this year, the new National Fund for Children program was launched. Within this program, 50% of the annual investment income of the National Fund is directed towards saving accounts for children under the age of 18. First money have already been deposited into the accounts of young Kazakh citizens.
I know, as we're talking about goals, it's better to say about the achievements. Achievements is a more proper word to explain the results of that 2 years governmental activity, 2 years activity of the cabinet. I would like to say the very important law was the return of the illegally removed from the Kazakhstan money actives.
The new law, initiated by the president on the return of illegally acquired and exported assets, has allowed to return over $2 billion back to the country. However, the work in this direction is not yet complete. The Prosecutor's General's office has reported that currently banking transactions totaling $455 billion are under verification, including suspicious operations amounting to $3 billion. Dauren Sagulov, Ilyas Tulkubay, New Time.
And now let's move on to some other topics. Kazakhstan will co-chair IAEA International Conference on Nuclear Security. The event will be held in Vienna, Austria later this year. Kazakhstan, let me remind you, as a strategic player in global uranium market, advocates internationally for nuclear security. This and other major news topics from Central Asia are in the review of my colleague, political observer, Ozhet Shagirbayev. Ozhet, good evening. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Ainur, for giving me the floor. I will be ready to share my top 4 Central Asia news in a moment. Kazakhstan will co-chair International Atomic Energy Agency International Conference on Nuclear Security. Permanent representative of Kazakhstan to the international organizations, Mukhtar Tleuberdi, and permanent representative of Australia, Mr. Jan Biggs, held a joint briefing in the UN office in Vienna on the preparation of the International Conference on Nuclear Safety, ICANS 2024, under the auspices of the International Atomic Energy Agency. The ICANS 2024 International Conference will be held in Vienna from 20 to 24 May under the joint chairmanship of Kazakhstan and Australia. The event will traditionally be one of the key events in Vienna, bringing together the heads of foreign services and relevant ministries and more than 2,000 nuclear security experts from 178 EIA member states. OECD experts represented new reports on trade facilitation in Central Asia and on realizing the potential of the Middle Corridor at a business breakfast with the participation of heads of the Ministry of Trade and Integration and the ambassadors of the OECD countries. The Ministry of Trade and Integration of Kazakhstan, in cooperation with Kaztrade, is a partner of the OECD project on trade and transport connectivity of Central Asian countries. According to the OECD, countries in the region have achieved positive results in simplifying and optimizing trade procedures and automatizing customs operation. According to the Minister of Trade of Kazakhstan, Arman Shakaliyev, the mutual trade turnover between Kazakhstan and the Central Asian countries is growing. The leading trading players in the region are Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. Moreover, Kazakhstan accounts for over half of the volume of foreign trade operations with the OECD countries. Mr. Gregory Lecomte, head of Central Asia Unit, stressed that in general, despite the region's improvement in the trade facilitation indicators, it's recommended to continue working to improve access to documentation, boost digitalization in trade relations, procedures and build up infrastructure to enhance inter-regional trade and inter-regional freight of goods. During the event, participants stressed the importance of developing the Trans-Caspian International Transport Route, TMTM, the so-called Middle Corridor. Kazakhstan is set to bring oil transportation via the Trans-Caspian International Transport Route to 3 million tons in the next 2 years. The country continues expansion projects at its oil fields, such as Tengiz, Karachaganak and Kashagan. Thus, the throughput of the Kazakh section of the Caspian Pipeline Consortium rose from 54 to 72.5 million tons a year, and other projects including in the gas sphere. This year, the country is to embark on the Butadian project, worth $1 billion to develop the petrochemical industry. Realization of $13.7 billion worth of investment projects to provide polyethylene, polyethylene and terephthalate and the carbamide in Atrau and Aktobe regions continues. Work is ongoing to carry out renewable energy projects with a total capacity of 4 gigawatts together with Total, Masdar, Aquapower and Green Energy. A roundtable discussion on Uzbekistan's tourism potential was held at the Uzbekistan Embassy in Brussels. During the meeting, it was emphasized that in 2023, more than 7 million foreign tourists visited Uzbekistan, and it's planned to increase this figure to 10 million in 2024 and 50 million by 2030. Following the event, agreements were reached on the activation of PR companies, the publication of special exhibition, tourism booklets, magazines, and other materials to promote the tourism potential of Uzbekistan, together with the travel agencies, and the media and distribution among potential tourists, organizing a separate meeting for travel agencies and media representatives of the Netherlands at the end of February of this year. That's all from my part, Ainur. Giving floor back to you.
Thanks. That was political observer Ozhet Shagirbayev with his weekly review on key news topics from Central Asia. Azerbaijan held the snap presidential elections on February 7th. Ilham Aliyev, incumbent president, has gained 92.1% of the vote, according to preliminary results from the Election Commission. This is Aliyev's 5th consecutive term in office. My colleague Baljan Samigulina, who has examined the topic, is here in our studio right now. Baljan, good evening. Why do you think Azerbaijan opted for the snap elections?
Good evening, Ainur. Yes, there was not due to be elections until 2025, but President Aliyev called the snap elections after the country successfully took back the former breakaway region of Nagorno-Karabakh in 2023. More details in a couple of seconds. The recent election, the first since Azerbaijan gained control of Nagorno-Karabakh, saw a turnout of over 76% of eligible voters. President Aliyev and his family voted in the capital of Nagorno-Karabakh. Also, there are other candidates, major opposition parties like the Popular Front of Azerbaijan and the Musayed Party boycotted the vote due to insufficient time for preparation and signature collection. Richard Griasyan, director of an independent think tank, attributes the snap election to the events in September and the victory in Karabakh War.
What we see is Azerbaijan's move to hold an election a year early. Much of the reason is based on Azerbaijan's victory in expelling the Armenians and retaking control of Nagorno-Karabakh. This is an effort by President Aliyev to consolidate power and authority. And as he has emerged from the shadow of his predecessor, his own father, this is important in terms of a mandate to govern for President Aliyev.
President Aliyev himself also cited the return of Karabakh to Azerbaijani control as the primary reason for the early presidential elections, marking a new era for the country. The region had been under ethnic Armenian control since 1994, after years of separatist conflict. Azerbaijan regained parts of the territory in a 44-day war in September 2023, prompting a surge of support in Azerbaijan. Despite winning the conflict, a peace treaty with Armenia remains unsigned. Zaur Mamadov, chairman of the Baku Club of Political Scientists, argued that the snap elections were necessary for the country's transition to a new phase of development.
Это объясняется тем, что
The snapping of the elections a year earlier is explained by the fact that Azerbaijan has already completed the first stage of its statehood in 30 years, in the sense that the main task facing Azerbaijani society, the deoccupation of Azerbaijani lands, was completed in autumn 2023, which means that the issue of separatism is closed.
деоккупация Карабаха и
Azerbaijan is an oil-rich country located between Europe and Asia, which had been a part of a former Soviet Union. The country faced a series of military coups since gaining independence in 1991. 2 years later, Heydar Aliyev concentrated power, becoming a leader of Azerbaijan. Later, he was succeeded by his son Ilham Aliyev, who has become the most long-standing president of the oil-rich country in South Caucasus region. In 2009, Aliyev conducted a referendum on constitutional amendments, enabling unlimited number of terms for a single individual and extending the presidential term from 5 to 7 years in 2016.
This election marked a significant shift in the political landscape. Previously, the primary concern revolved around when Azerbaijan would reclaim Karabakh and if victory over Armenia was achievable. Now, as a victorious nation, Azerbaijani citizens are casting their votes based on their preferences. It's evident that with the Azerbaijani army's success under Ilham Aliyev's leadership, the society is likely to support him.
Now, after getting an assertive win, Ilham Aliyev will keep reintegration of Karabakh into Azerbaijan as the main focus of his office. Another priority is cooperation within OTS, Organization of Turkic States, experts noted.
Well, what I do see strategically is Azerbaijan is very much the pivotal path or avenue for Turkey to re-engage Central Asia. Azerbaijan in this context is actually a transit state and not the destination.
И в Азербайджане делают акцент во внешнеполитических...
Azerbaijan is prioritizing its foreign policy engagements with Central Asian countries. It appears that while maneuverability may have been limited before the war, there are now opportunities for deeper relations, including with Kazakhstan. The communication route linking Central Asia to Europe via Azerbaijan holds particular significance, suggesting that both countries are likely to capitalize on these resources.
Since Ilham Aliyev's win is confirmed, he will be set up for another 7 years in power. Observers say that the main hope for the country is to gain long-awaited stability in the region. Ainur, that's it for Explainer section today. Giving floor back to you.
Thank you very much. Baljan Samigulina with your Explainer section on snap presidential elections joined our studio. And to continue, Kassym-Jomart Tokayev extended congratulations to Ilham Aliyev on his victory in Azerbaijan's snap presidential elections. During their telephone conversation, Kazakh president highlighted that the election results demonstrate strong national support for President Aliyev's strategic direction and comprehensive reforms. In response, Azerbaijan's leader expressed gratitude for the congratulations and affirmed his steadfast dedication to fostering cooperation with Kazakhstan. Meanwhile, the puppies of Kazakh dog breed Taze, which were introduced to President of France Emmanuel Macron during his visit to Kazakhstan late 2023, were sent to Paris straight to the Élysée Palace. The puppies have already been checked by local veterinarians. They now are going to live in Macron's residence along with his other dog. Taze is an original Kazakh dog breed. They are natural-born hunters, possess slender bodies, extreme agility and tracking skills. It's the only breed of dogs that nomadic Kazakhs led in their yurts. That alone shows how important these dogs were in a cultural sense. And to sum up with, Yevgeny Chabatkov, a well-known stand-up comedian originally from Kazakhstan, accepted the challenge of New Times reporter Baljan Samigulina to make a fragment of his performance in Kazakh in Almaty. In an exclusive interview, artist shared news about his attempts to learn Kazakh in Moscow. Yevgeny Chabatkov is known for his multilingual performances in Russian, English and Spanish, intervenes multiculturalism and intelligence in his comedy style. With a global fan base, he gears up for an upcoming tour across Asia, including stops in Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam and South Korea. Let's watch the fragment of the interview right now.
Well, this is not a comedy show, you know it, right? This is an imitation show.
Evgeny, thank you for joining us. You are one of very few stand-up comedians in CIS countries who touch on intellectual topics like politics and history. So how does the current global geopolitical situation impact your performances?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me, because I think that's a great opportunity for me as a comedian to speak English in Central Asia and Kazakhstan, of course. That's a shocking situation for, I guess, almost for everybody. But me as a comedian, I have to be, as I think, on the side of the comedy. And my personal idea is that if you are artist, you have to be against every political side. Well, I'm not really interested in politics. I just feel all this happening. But for me, as a citizen of Kazakhstan, the first thing I have to maintain, think which is most important for me, is just to keep doing my job, keep doing comedy.
I perform in English in front of you, and you understand what I'm saying. Come on, some Russian politics can't do that in Russia now.
From all existing stand-up performance, you differ with your multiculturalism, since you perform not only in Russian but also in English, Spanish and French. But what place does Kazakhstan take in your comedic repertoire? How frequently do you incorporate jokes related to your homeland?
I was looking for something to give people to remember who I am, where I'm from, who am I as a comedian. And that was a tricky moment, because I was not so experienced in comedy, and that's why I always kept saying that, oh, well, look at me, I'm a ginger guy, I used to live in Canada, I'm from Kazakhstan, yes, this is my motherland, Kazakhstan, blah blah blah. And this connection was so big in the first years, and people sometimes they invited me to perform, and they just ask, and we are waiting for some jokes about Kazakhstan because we are from Kazakhstan, for example, or they invited me on some show like, well, there's going to be a lot of people from Kazakhstan. They want to hear more jokes about Kazakhstan. After some moment, I decided that I don't want to use this fact for my career. And nowadays, I don't actually use it a lot, because, well, it's my motherland and it's a very important part of my life. And people already know that I'm from Kazakhstan. I also in my plans this March or I guess in April, I would like to record 10-15 minutes in Spanish. And also my big plan this year to record in English, like 20-25 minutes of comedy in Kazakhstan.
Boring, huh? Come on. With my passport, I know for sure I need visa everywhere.
How do you evaluate the creative industry in Kazakhstan? Where does it go to, and what is still missing in it? What do you think?
I had a lot of friends in Kazakhstan who are involved in creative activities and creative sphere in Kazakhstan, and I see how it's growing, and I see a lot of new stand-up clubs. I think there are a lot of things which could be improved. I think we all can move to more international comedy also. That's my personal opinion, but every country and every region of the country got something very, very, very special which can be used in comedy. And Kazakhstan is a fantastic country with so interesting regions. We have to concentrate in Kazakhstan. We have to concentrate in our personal style. I think that Kazakhstan can be a central, not just the Central Asia in like a leader of Central Asia in comedy. That's what I think we can do. I think the future of comedy in Kazakhstan could be really big. We just have to take in and believe in ourselves. I'd like to make this English stand-up in Kazakhstan, because I'm absolutely sure that we can go global. I now I live in Moscow, but I'm taking Kazakh language classes in our embassy of Kazakhstan, because that's interesting for me, and I would like to try myself. That was one of my ideas, to perform 5-7 minutes maybe in Kazakhstan, stand up in Kazakhstan.
Hey, Zheng, are you surfing in your hometown?
You mentioned that you started to attend Kazakh language courses. Will you accept the challenge if I tell you that you will need to perform in Kazakh by March when you'll be coming here to Kazakhstan? What would you say on that?
Well, that's interesting. I'd like to try myself, to challenge myself, because this is a big challenge for me. I think yeah, I can try. Why not? I can try. This sounds like a fun challenge.
I've just recorded it and I'm going to use it.
Yeah, I understand.
That's it for today. All the main news about Kazakhstan and Central Asia you can find here. More special projects about our country you can also watch on Silkway TV channel. So stay tuned and see you next week.